And that's our take on beef stroganoff.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it, exactly. Well, traditionally, if you can say that, you would go with fillet, but we are not doing that. We are gonna use flank steak. You can use skirt steak, flank steak. I think it's a pity to use fillet because, first of all, it doesn't have that beefy flavor that you get from a flank steak like this. But in order to get this good and tender in a sauce like that, you need to consider the grain. If you see here, the grain runs this way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it with the grain first, sort of into 3 pieces. Not sort of, gonna cut it into 3 pieces, like this, so we can get some nice bite-sized things here, because then we're gonna cut it in strips like this thickness. Not too thin, because then it will just disappear, but you don't want them. You want them a little bit thicker than if you were making a beef stir fry like Chinese style in a wok. A little bit thicker than that. That would be what we're looking for.
Have we also used the same cut in carne asada, I think, or not?
Yes, we have.
Oh, then it is delicious. That meat is fantastic.
Because here you see that fat marbling you get here. This is Black Angus, by the way. Yeah. Super fat marbling. I'm gonna cut all this up and then I'll show you how we season it. And there it is, all cut up. And by the way, I didn't mention this before, this is about 2 kilos, so little more than 4 pounds. So you have the analogy of what we're doing later. For the spices, so 2 kilos of meat, that's, let's say, some teaspoons. We will say 3 teaspoons of salt, something like that. So now we do half of it here on top, like this. Then we have, this is important, allspice, or bahar, or pimenta. It has many names, but it's allspice, and it is unripe berries of a pepper plant that's dried up, and it smells fantastic. It has hints of cinnamon, clove,
lemon even.
Lemon even, yeah. So we take also here, spread out on this side, half of that. This is like 2 tablespoons. And then nutmeg. I have here about a teaspoon, not a full teaspoon. Be careful, don't put too much, because that can take it way too far on nutmeg. You don't want to make bechamel here. And then we get in with our hands and we give it a good massage and flip it over. So once we have it flipped over, we expose the meat again, I wanted to say. We go in with the rest of our spices, like this, and a little bit more salt. And we do it one more time.
That promises a nice flavor profile there.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And this, you're gonna let sit for half an hour, 2 hours, but at least half an hour, I would say. You could actually, if you were so inclined, you could put it overnight in the fridge. But you just wanted to sort of infuse the meat before we start searing anything. So I'm gonna put this away, and then we're gonna prepare the rest of the ingredients. So in the meantime, we did the prep. We thought it was stupid to show you how to cut onion. We have done that many times before, so we just cut them up and that's fine. Now we have a large rondo pot warming up here. You want it to be pretty warm before you start anything. And this looks good. You can always check with your thermometer. We are coming close to 200 degrees. That's what we want. We go in with some vegetable oil, avocado oil. Don't use olive oil, because olive oil is way too low smoke point for this. And then we take our beef in batches, because you don't want to crowd the pan. And that's what you want to hear. In with beef. This will probably be 3 batches before we are finished. We want to brown them.
But not finish them off, huh?
Exactly. No, we don't finish them here, because they will cook in the sauce. Let me grab a bunch here and spread it out. Something like that. And then we let it go till we get a nice browning on all sides of it. And when everything has a nice browning like this, I don't know if you can see here in front of this, then we are gonna take it all out and continue with the other batches.
I see you are building a nice font there.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun here. Get it all out. all the meat is out, nice and browned. And now it's time to give it a little taster because
I already did. It's perfect. You could stop actually the recipe here.
you could stop right here.
Yeah.
Anyway, aluminium foil, we're just going to tend it a little bit here. And we set it aside before we continue with our mushrooms. And here we are with some quite big white mushrooms. But one thing here you have to notice, make them quite thick. You don't want to cut them too thin here. They will shrink a lot, but you want to have these nice bites of mushrooms. You could use any kind. There are a million kinds of mushrooms.
Even magic mushrooms.
Yeah, but don't use those. But you could use, brown button mushrooms, cremini, whatever you want. This, now you see here, we have this nice fond in the bottom of the pan that we will lift out later, but most probably a lot of it will lift out with the water from the mushrooms. So in with all of this, this is, by the way, 800 grams of mushrooms that we cut up. And now we're just going to let them start to sear in the bottom. They will release all the water will evaporate, and then they will start browning. So this is something you steer them. It takes 20-25 minutes, but apart from that, easy going. So we'll show you how they have to look at the end. And now you see all that water coming out here. It's like a lot of water. And by the way, that's one thing which is bullshit when they say you should not wash your mushrooms because then they absorb more water. It's bullshit because mushrooms contain a lot of water and they don't actually absorb any water when you wash them. And you don't want to put soil in your food. So wash your mushrooms and then you...
and wash your hands.
And wash your hands. And then you boil out the water. But this is not ready yet. We have to continue until all the water is gone and they start frying. That's what we're looking for. So they get brown sear on the mushrooms. So continue till all the water is gone. And now all the water has gone, and now they will start frying. You can hear the pan starts changing sound actually, because now it's not bubbling, now it starts frying. Now we want to take them till they get nice and brown. I'll show you exactly what we're looking for here, but give them a little bit longer. You might add a little bit of oil actually to center of the pan at this point, just a tad. You're not going to make them drown in oil, but a little bit of oil to fry in the bottom, that helps them with a nice browning. So keep going, dark brown, that's what we're looking for. And now they're nice and brown. I don't know if you can see that on the top camera, but they have got a nice browning to them, and it smells really dark mushroom aroma here. It smells fantastic actually. So now we want to get them out, like the meat, basically. Then we're going to give it another glug of oil. No measurements here, just a glug. 2 medium-sized or large onions, just cut root to stem and then down the end so you get some batons like this. That's what we want here. We don't want to finely mince them. We want to have pieces of onion in our sauce. So in with that, down with the temperature. We don't want to do this too hot. And then we let them go here till they soften up. And now our onion, they are softened up and they started to get slightly golden, not browned up yet. So now we're going to move them to a side here, create some space in the middle. And then we're going to go in with a tablespoon of tomato paste to give a little bit of body to our sauce. It's not going to be tomato-y from this, but it will give a little bit of body. And then, besides that, 3 minced cloves of garlic. You can ramp that up, down, depending on how much garlic you like. These are quite potent. These are the Greek garlics. If you're in the US, you will probably take 6 cloves.
7.
But you want to cook out the tomato paste, and while the garlic, that gets fragrant, because otherwise it has like a rough taste. So you just want to cook it out a little bit here. And when you smell the garlic, you stir everything in with the onions. Give it a good stir around here. And then we are going to add a splash of fortified white wine. You could use white wine. You could
the rest, huh?
Yeah, so we can lift up the rest of the fond from the bottom here. There are no measurement. A good glug, 100 ml. But we let it cook off until the alcohol has disappeared from the air and it's reduced again before we build up the rest of the sauce. So let it cook for a couple of minutes with this, and then help it with a spatula to release the rest of the fat, and then cook it down a couple of minutes. And when that has cooked a little bit, we are going to go in with our homemade beef stock. This is about a liter here, 4 cups, give and take. I'm going to get in with that, and then we're going to get one more. And as you can see, I didn't skim off all the fat when I made this stock. It's linked down below how to do that, but leave a little bit of the fat on the top. You don't want to take all of it out because that's a lot of flavor. And this is unsalted, low sodium beef stock. Fantastic product. And now we just want to bring this up to a simmer, and that will be the base of our sauce. And now this is simmering nicely here and just getting all the flavors together. The rest of this is pretty short actually. We are going to add half a liter of heavy cream. This would not be the original beef stroganoff. If you go back to the Russian recipe when this was invented, they would do this with sour cream actually. But the modern version here, I like heavy cream. Good. And now you see the color changes, it becomes a beautiful sauce here. And now a couple of additions, which definitely is not traditional, but is something that I like. Here, I'm gonna give it a healthy tablespoon of Dijon mustard. This is whole grain, homemade. Link down below how to make this. Fantastic product. I give it a little bit more, it's a big pot. So that to a side. Then we're gonna give it a dash of soy sauce, just for some umami background, I don't know, one couple of tablespoons, maybe 3, not more, just so it's there. And then I'm not gonna even attempt this W sauce. You all know what that is. If you can pronounce it, give me a...
No, that's impossible.
And we give it here what's the equivalent to a tablespoon. Like that. That's about it. And then for the sauce, remember we have salt on the meat, but it's not gonna be enough for all of this. So for now, I'm going with a healthy teaspoon of salt. And then we see freshly cracked black pepper. That's about it. And now we just let this simmer away for maybe 5 minutes, not more. And then we just want to thicken it up. I'll show you how we do that in 5. Now this has been simmering for a bit for the flavors to combine properly. Now we want to thicken it up a bit. And yeah, you could have added a cup of flour when we did the tomato paste and then some butter and create a roux, but I prefer to do it with a slurry. So I'm doing this. This is 1.5 tablespoons of tapioca flour. If you use cornstarch or corn flour, you need more because tapioca is a very, potent thickener compared to cornstarch. So that's why I use it. So in with that, continue simmering this as it thickens up, and that will go pretty fast actually. Now, depending how thick you want it, that's up to you. I don't want it to be super thick, but I don't want either this to be like a soup, so somewhere in between. Now it is beautifully combined and it looks and it smells fantastic. But now I'll show you what it was I meant about the consistency. If you take a spoon, and you coat the backside, and you take it, then you have that pan sauce consistency. And then I can use it to taste for salt also. That's perfect. I mean, that's subjective. If you want it more salty, whatever, you can add as much as you want, but taste so you know where you are. Now we're going to reintroduce our meat and our mushrooms. And then we're basically finished in very short time because this is still a little bit warm. All of our nice beef here. And don't forget all the juices here. They have to go into the sauce. That's all the flavor that came from the browning of the beef. And all we want to do now is mix this well, and then we want to bring it to a very light simmer because now the meat cooled off a little bit. And then we switch it off because then the carryover temperature will cook the beef. We don't want to overcook it. You don't want to let this simmer now for 10-15 minutes because then you will have chewy beef. So just bring it back so you see it starts bubbling there in the middle around the edges. and then you switch it off and let it rest for 10-15 minutes at least to good eating temperature, and then we're ready to serve. Well, you can serve this over mashed potatoes. You can serve it in America, they would serve it over buttered egg noodles. We've chosen to serve it over rice. Do whatever you feel like with this, but it's just a beautiful sauce for all of these different ways of serving. So let me find a nice piece of beef here, some mushroom, some onion. We want all of it on this. We want a good bite here, a little bit of our rice, and then let's see. The beef is cooked to perfection. Don't ever boil it for a long time. Just back to the simmer and then let the carryover temperature. It has the tiniest bit of bite to it that you want, so it's not falling apart like butter. Perfect sauce, excellent comfort food. I really think you should make this. You're gonna love it, and so will your guests.